Okay, we're going to talk you through how to use the plant floor application in Vantage to collect data about activities on the manufacturing floor. First, we're going to ask that you log into Vantage as soon as possible after clock-in. The closer these records match, the easier it is for management to reconcile any discrepancies in the data. And why we're asking you to do this is that management needs accurate data in order to manage the company. This will help them to identify process improvements. It will also help to determine when additional employees or machines are needed. It will save accounting time in reconciling invoices and job costs as well. So once you're in the plant floor application, and we'll do a demonstration of that in just a moment, but I just want to walk through the steps first. So you have an employee ID, and on your employee ID card you have a barcode. You can scan that barcode to put your employee ID right in this field here, and then touch or click on the login and log out button. The first time that you log in for the day, you're going to get a verification of your shift. That information should pop up with the proper shift. If it doesn't, please contact your supervisor to get that corrected. But just then you would just say OK. So once you're logged in, you're going to see a screen like this one. So the first thing that you'll do is start an activity. In order to do that, you'll touch or click on the Start Activity button. This will be for when you're going to start a job. And you have two types of activities to select here: Setup and Production. The indirect we're going to talk about later. We don't want you to log in any indirect time when you're logged in under your employee ID. We're going to use that to track time that the machines are idle, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. So you'll notice the barcode scans, that there's barcodes on the job travelers now and the move tickets. So this will make it easier for you to enter the information into the plant floor application. So the first thing you can do is scan the job number into the job number field, the assembly, and the operation sequence that you're going to work on. The next, you need to select the machine, and you have a laminated sheet that has the machine IDs by line. There's also a label on each machine looking something like this on the right hand side. So scan in the machine ID that you're going to start the operation on. Be sure to be careful about which machine ID you're using. If you're using those laminated sheets, we want to make sure that you're selecting the machine ID that matches to the machine you're going to be working on. And then click OK to start. You'll have seen this information populates. Just verify that that again is correct, and then hit OK. Once you have hit OK, you're going to see this activity show up on your production tab. So you can verify that it was in place. And at any point, you can verify just by looking at this screen when you're logged in as your ID which activities are active. Let's say we're done with this activity. What we would do is we would click on the activity that we want to end and touch or click on the End Activity button. Then we're going to be asked to enter the current quantity. This is the good quantity, that the amount of good quantity that was made during this period of activity. We need an accurate number here, so please don't guess at this number. Enter it as accurately as possible. The scrap quantity, we're going to limit that for setup only. So when we have expected scrap and setup, then it would be appropriate to enter scrap quantity, but for production we're going to ask that you enter any bad parts into non-conform quantity. And then you can click OK. At the end of your shift, you have to have all activities ended. This panel down here under production should be empty, in which case before you clock out on the time clock, we're going to ask that you clock out here, and you do that simply by being once you're logged in, just hit the clock out button. Again, all activities must be ended in order to clock out. And again, we ask that you do this as close to the time that you're clocking out from the time clock as possible, again, so that those discrepancies can be more easily resolved. So now we're going to talk about accounting for machine idle time. It's important for management to understand when the machines are running and when they're not running, why they're not running. This will help them to better manage the company. So we've identified the following reasons for machine idle time: waiting for operator, waiting for material, waiting for QC approval, waiting for job, adjust to conform, machine repair, scheduled maintenance, tooling maintenance, and machine startup. Waiting for operator. This code we want you to use when you are clocking out of your shift and there is a job still to be run on this machine. This may be that the next shift is going to run this job, or possibly not, but if we want to be able to track when you're clocking out and there is still a job that should be, or if there is an operator available, would be running on that machine. The other time that you would use waiting for operator is when the machine was waiting for material and the material is now delivered. The material handler will end the waiting for material activity and start the waiting for operator activity. The next one is waiting for material. When you are ready to start a setup and you have already made the request for material, you would put the machine in to waiting for material. Or when an active job is incomplete and runs out of material and you've already made the request for material. So please don't put it into waiting for material before you've let the material handler know that you need the material. The next is waiting for QC approval. This would be used when you have completed your setup and you've already submitted the product to QC for the first article inspection and you're waiting for their approval to start production. Waiting for job would be you've completed a job and you do not have another job scheduled for that machine. So it's important to differentiate waiting for operator versus waiting for job. Waiting for operator means there is a job, but you're done with your shift and the next operator would not need to come in and start that. Waiting for job means you're done with this job and you don't yet have another job to put on that machine. Adjust to conform you'll use when you've found or been notified by a QC inspector that the product is out of specifications or near out of spec and the job needs to be stopped in order to make adjustments. You'd want to do this regardless of whether you're capable of doing the adjustments or not, so that we can track if the machine needs to wait for someone who is. That's important for the for management to see, to be able to improve on efficiencies. Machine repair you'll use when the machine cannot run due to needed repairs. Again, please do this only when you've already notified maintenance or plant management of the needed repair. Scheduled maintenance. This is a little different. It's when the machine is unavailable due to a scheduled preventative maintenance. This use of this code should be rare for anyone other than the maintenance department. Tooling maintenance would be used when the machine is unavailable due to tooling being out for maintenance. And machine startup. This would be used in the situation where the machines were off and there's a significant startup time that we want to log, so that if it takes a while for all the machines to get up and running, go ahead and put them into machine startup, and then when they're up and ready to go, when you're ready to log your first activity, you'll take them out of that and log your activity. So as I said, when we're tracking these machine idle times, we want to do this as indirect activity, but we need to do this as the machine. So the machine IDs have been made also as employee IDs. So this way you can log in as if the machine were an employee, and you can track this indirect time. So the steps to log in are the same. You would have an employee ID. In this case, instead of scanning your own employee ID, you're scanning the machine code. So this can be done again by the labels that are on the physical machines, or from the laminated cards that are with the carts that indicate, that have the barcodes for each of the machines. So when the machine is, once you log in as the machine, you would log in as a machine in two situations. One, when the machine is idle, you need to log indirect activity to scan for the reason that the machine is idle, or when the machine will be running unattended with no assigned operator. I understand in some situations there will be no operator assigned to a machine. They might be running it over a Sunday or some shift when people may not be in which case you'll start your production activity but be logged in as that machine ID at the time if there is no operator to manage. Okay, so how we record the machine idle time is very similar to the way you did your production. So once you're signed in, but this time as the machine ID, you will touch or click the Start Activity button. In this case, you're going to use the indirect for the activity type. Again, be logged in only as the machine ID when you log this indirect activity. And here's where we need you to scan or type in the indirect code. You have on your laminated sheets barcode scans for each of the reasons. So you'll scan that reason, and then you'll scan the machine ID. This will tell us which work center to attribute the idle time to. And again, the machine ID, it's the same. It's either the label on the machine or the laminated cards. Some things that are important to remember: we need you to log into Vantage with your employee ID barcode as soon as possible after clocking in at the time clock. You'll be logging job activity under your ID, and you'll be logging indirect or idle time under the machine ID. Log out versus clock out. You can log in or out anytime, as many as needed to enter activities and counts. But at the end of your shift, it's important that you end all of your activities and use the clock out. Alright, we're just going to walk through a quick demonstration of what we just talked about. So on your desktop you'll have a plant floor 6.1 icon. If the application's not already launched, this is where you'll launch it. You can just touch on that for the touch screen or click on it with your mouse. You'll need to enter the password to log in. The password is shop. It's the same as the username. You can either type that in, or you'll find at the top of the touchscreen computers there's a little barcode for the password, so you could just scan it in as well from the password. I'm going to type it in right here in the demonstration. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to log in. So we've clocked in on the time clock, and now we're coming out to the plant floor, and we're going to find one of these stations, and we're going to scan our employee ID in. So if you don't see the blinking cursor in the employee ID field, just click or touch in there, and now you can scan in from your employee ID the barcode for your employee ID, or if you don't have that and you know your employee ID number, you can type that in. I'm just going to use the test user, so I'm just typing mine in right now. And once I log in, the first time you log in, you also need to verify your shift. So I'm going to do that one more time. The shift prompt is going to come up. I'm going to acknowledge that that's correct. And now I'm successfully logged in, and I can start my activities. You can see in the production tab I don't have any activities started just yet. So I'm going to choose start activity, and in this case I'm going to choose some production activity. And here's where I could scan my job number. In this particular, we're going to, again, where the cursor is blinking is where that would be on the job traveler. You've got a barcode for job number. In this particular case, I'm just going to find something that I can use as an example here. Okay, and then I would choose or scan the assembly sequence and the operation sequence. And again, this you'll just scan it with your barcode scanner. And now I'll have a machine ID that comes up by default, but you'll want to scan the machine ID that you're going to use here when this is highlighted. So that we don't want we want you to tell us exactly which machine it is that you're using. And again, you can use the scan from the label that's on the physical machine, or from those laminated cards that have the machine IDs by line. That operation complete is just because I picked a job that's already complete. I just wanted to be able to show how this is done. We're not actually doing any production activity here. So once I've logged in, this job would be running. I could log in. I could start activities on other jobs. I can put as many in here as I need. So let's say this job, we're done with this one now, and I'm going to hit end activity. And here, for current, is where I'm going to enter in. There's a keypad next to the computer, or you can use the touch screens down here below, whichever is more convenient for you. I need you to enter the number here that is good quantity. You want your good quantity here. We don't want you to use any scrap quantity for production. That's for setup only. And then I need you to enter any non-conform quantity. If you had any bad parts, you'll enter that quantity here. And then you'll go ahead and say OK. And now you'll see that activity is out of my production window. Now, once it's the end of your shift, you want to make sure you've ended each activity. You want this production window to be cleared out. And in that case, I will then hit clock out. And now I can go to the time clock and punch out. So I'm going to log in as a machine. You would scan the barcode in, but I'm going to log in as a machine. And I'm going to start activity. And when I'm logged in as a machine, in most cases I'm going to be choosing indirect. So this, we're going to use indirect as the reason that the machine is not going to be running. You would scan then the indirect code, or you can select it from the drop-down box, but you have the laminated card with the reasons. And we're going to say that we're waiting for operator. It's the end of our shift, and we're getting ready to leave, and there is still a job to be run. So I'm going to enter that code, and then I'm going to scan the machine ID again, and I'm going to say OK. And then if I need to do that for another machine, I will log out, log in with the next machine ID, and do the same thing for as many machines as I need to put into an indirect activity indicating the reason why the machine won't be running. Please ask if you have any questions about what you should be doing. It's important that we all get the data collection as accurate as possible so that management has the tools to make the improvements that everyone would like to see. Thank you.